Awesome. Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session, Proactive Strategies to Improve Underrepresentation in Public Knowledge Graphs, a Wikidata sprint in UNLV special collections highlighting LGBTQ plus Las Vegas. And we are very lucky to have today Darnell Melvin. Darnell Melvin is the Special Collections and Archives Metadata Librarian and an associate professor at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, where he is the lead metadata and semantic web strategist responsible for managing metadata activities such as large-scale remediation projects, metadata workflows, and metadata documentation. He is co-author of Linked Data for the Perplexed Librarian and researches metadata and resource discovery in digital libraries, ethical representation in public knowledge graphs, and data integration. Melvin also teaches, because that wasn't enough, because we have to have more, also teaches metadata architecture at the University of Denver. His work explores linked data implementation, metadata remediation tools and services, workflow engineering and optimization, and system interoperability. I said all those words correctly. Melvin received his MLIS degree from San Jose State University with a specialization in information organization, description, analysis, and retrieval. So without further ado, take it away, Darnell. And we will do questions at the end. So I will give you a quick heads up where we are at time.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And good morning, everyone. And thank you for taking the time to participate in this session. Again, I'm Darnell Melvin, and I'm very excited to share with you our project highlighting LGBTQ Las Vegas. In today's session, I will be discussing some strategies to deal with issues of underrepresentation in knowledge graphs, introduce the UNLV Wikidata team, discuss some background information regarding the sprints and design decisions, and then introduce our project wiki, then jump into an interactive Sparkle deep dive using the Wikidata query service. So let's begin, shall we? Let's start with a little bit about underrepresentation and public knowledge graphs. Oh boy. Some of you may know this, some of you may not, but it has been well documented in semantic web and linked data literature about bias and the cascading effects on public knowledge graph construction, data-driven processes, or data-driven services. In Wikidata, there are multiple studies have shown evidence of bias in multiple forms, including implicit, from people and algorithms related to gender, race, or social. And because of this, there really is a great need to add new diverse things that better represents the real world we live in. And this has been one of my interests in research and one of the driving factors behind the sprints that we've been doing at UNLV, where we've been using our special collections materials that may not always get the light that it represents. And there's a lot of hidden collections, whether it's because due to under processing or just the lack of knowledge, or minimal description. There are a bunch of activities we've been doing to try to change it. One is this Wikidata program that we've been doing, starting with the PCC pilot and then moving from the pilot into building it programmatically and strategically planning it within our strategic plans and a part of my research portfolio, stuff like that. So really the strategies that we need to address this is really the linked data principles set forth by Tim Berners-Lee. We need to create things. We need to link to things, persistently use URIs to persistently describe those things. those are the principles, but the only difference is we're going and trying to go into our own communities and these whatever your community is, just trying to get more representation in the graph. Currently, and I'll show you some in our Sparkle session, the picture of what the LGBTQ picture looks like. So a little bit about us. Currently, our team consists of 4. Kayla Ott, she's a Wikimedian and a current LIS student at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign's iSchool. She's been working with us in our digital collections since she was an undergraduate and has moved on. And she has become quite a in-depth knowledge with our collections. There's myself, the project lead, Corey Lampert, the head of digital collections, and Andre Hewlett, our applications developer. We make up this team. Talk about the sprints. The sprint brought a number of challenges during the planning phases. For example, not much has been digitized. Most of these collections haven't been processed to the full level that it could be. So discoverability is an issue. We have a LibGuide that lists some of the collections, but it wasn't all of it. So after digging around, we identified that we actually have 57 manuscript collections, a bunch of oral histories, and some photo collections. So we worked with that and built on that. Another issue we've come into is community members have passed on. They've died, either tragically or by natural causes. So it's really hard, to get a full picture. We may have had correspondence that dropped off in the middle of a correspondent. We may have missing data or incomplete data. And so we have to take a very flexible approach on how we wanted to model our things for this sprint. Some things may have a lot of data, some things may have minimal data. And then the last thing is finding information prior to 2010 has been problematic. A lot of that information was oral, and a lot of the people in these communities are just not here anymore. So these are some of the challenges that we're facing right now. Again, I said we found 57 manuscript collections. We're using an index that Dennis McBride gave to us. For those of you who don't know, Dennis McBride was the retired director of the Nevada Museum, and he's also written multiple books on LGBT Las Vegas, and he's also the leading expert on the Hoover Dam. Meeting with Dennis, he gave me an index that was organized alphabetically by biographies of people, bars, and organizations, and cross-referenced. He maintained this index for over 30 years. And this is actually almost like the Rosetta Stone for what we have in the collections, because all of these LGBT collections were donated by Dennis McBride. So this is like a treasure map. And currently with Kayla, our Wikimedian is only working part-time, 20 hours a week on a short sprint. Her current contract will run for, I believe, 15 weeks or something like that. So there's no way we're going to be able to identify everything, especially since nothing has really been digitized. So Kayla is actually having to go in and do archival research, extract the information, and then go do it in batches, either using quick statements, or she may have to do some one-off stuff manually, or a combination of manual and quick statements and batches and stuff like that. So here are the 4 collections that we used for so far in the sprint: the Dennis McBride collection on LGBT Las Vegas, the Gay and Lesbian Community Center of Southern Nevada Records, the Dennis McBride Photograph Collection, and the Las Vegas Yellow Page Telephone Directory. So with the Yellow Pages directory was really cool because we actually had the addresses of these businesses, so we were able to extract that to put it to generate maps and coordinates on maps, stuff like that. So during the planning phases, we also decided we had to decide what types of entities we should make and how should we use the data. We decided we wanted to visualize maps using the OpenStreetMap API. We wanted graphs with nodes and their various relationships. And we also wanted to utilize timelines to give a picture into this community. So now I want to take a look at our project wiki, and it can be found at the bit.ly address on the slide. Cool thing is you'll be able to follow along, and there's a lot of wealth of information there. I really suggest you guys take a look at it. There's links to other projects and stuff there too as well as supplemental instructional materials. So here's our project wiki. It has our use cases. It gives a little bit of our project metrics in there. Blow this up a little bit. Our project metrics, it talks about each of our sprints. Currently, our LGBT sprint is our 11th sprint. We have resources. We talk about, which also talks about some best practices, how we model collections, and these are not like, definitive. It doesn't have to be like mandatory. Sometimes we just don't have that information. So, but these are the basic templates for the types of things we've modeled so far. And then we have a general help section, which has a variety of general help regarding data quality. We've developed instructional guides on quick statements that supplements the quick statements instructional guides. We had stuff using Cradle forms, as well as I created a supplemental Sparkle page with for Sparkle by example, and then some stuff on markup and stuff like that. On this current wiki, I also have a section 6, which has some Sparkle examples. We're going to now move on to our Sparkle session. For the Sparkle demo, I've marked up queries in section 6 on the project wiki, and we'll start by looking at query 6.19. So talking about underrepresentation, I wrote this query to represent the top 20 LGBT places represented in Wikidata, and it's by P31 or instant of. In RDF terms, that would be the equivalent of an RDF type. And basically what this query is doing is it's an inner query where we're counting the topics of the P31 or the subclass of LGBT places. And then we're just grouping it. So if you click underneath the code box, if you click the try it link, it'll bring the Sparkle query into the query engine. And if you execute it by hitting the blue button, you will get the Sparkle query. So I wanted to just show you what, and this is not just our stuff, this is what's in Wikidata right now. So this paints a really interesting picture. I'm using the bubble charts to count and show the magnitude of what's in Wikidata. Right now, gay bars, there's only 170 gay bars, followed by LGBTQ bars, dance clubs, and then it goes down with less and less and less. Let's look at it. I will, if you take out line number 2 and get rid of the hash default view and rerun it, you will get a list and show you the numbers. And if you want to just get rid of and show all of it, you could just get rid of the limit and it'll show. And it's only 74 types of things that's been counted. And mostly of them, they've been only one type of thing, you know. But the picture is just, it's just a snapshot, you know. And so this is why I'm saying we need to do more, you know. We need to create more of these things, whether we're doing, you know, scientists, educators, academics who are a part of this LGBT community. There's definitely more than just, you know, bars, dance clubs, and, you know, bathhouses and stuff like that, which is a part of the community, but it's just not a complete picture yet. It's very fuzzy. And so this is some of the things that I'm starting to see in the Sparkle when we use Sparkle this way. So the second query we used is we wanted to list UNLV archival collections with the subject heading LGBTQ plus community. So if I bring that into it, here you have a list with our inventory numbers, the collection names, a description, and we use ARC's archival resource keys as our persistent identifier for things in our local graph. So this will take you, this link will take you to our repository where you could do some further research, look at it. Some of this stuff is digitized, some of it may not. So this, from here, you would be able to further navigate and look at our collections and stuff like that. And so this is how we're part of that strategy, creating things and then anchoring it to other things. So another query we did was a graph of the archival collections by subjects. And I think this is a very powerful way to look at your collections, because by looking at it in graph view, you'll be able to actually see how your collections are interrelated to other collections, because of connecting, you know, say similar subjects. So here goes our collections now with LGBT community as the center of the hub. As you can see, I'm pulling on it, but you can see how all these are there. And wouldn't it be great if we had a visualization tool that you would be able to actually make more sense with this and do more things with it? You know, I think it's coming. So this is just a really cool thing to see how our collections really flies in this universe of knowledge and stuff. And you could do the same thing with created works or published articles, or really any kind of thing. If there's, you know, but different kinds of things may have different profiles of what kinds of properties it may have, or it may show. A person may have death place, birthplaces, occupations, affiliations, those kinds of things, whereas you don't have that with, say, a corporate body or some kind of organization. So there will be different properties for different types of things. Moving on, this is an interesting one that utilizes timelines. This is Las Vegas Pride events. So this is a very interesting, oops, I'll put it back on the tab. This is a very interesting query. And what this query is doing is giving all the Pride events, but if you look in the tab events part label, we have different events associated with Pride, because Pride happened over a week or a weekend and stuff like that. And there was different events. So we were able to break out the different events that were a part with the point in times of when it happened. And then we had the locations, and we got coordinates, but we also, I've added to the query to, if there are geo names, URIs, give me back the geo name URI as well. The GeoName Semantic Web Service is a very powerful tool, a lot more powerful than LC geographic terms, because LC geographic, yeah, they have URIs, but there's really no way to really do things with the data. With GeoNames and their API service, you can ask very specific questions. Give me all the lakes within a 50-mile radius. You know, you can do very specific tasks. Give me all the libraries within this, geographic administration level. You know, it's very powerful. And that's how we describe places in our local graph. So this is, again, going back to that strategy of linking, creating things and linking. So if you look at this on the map, though, we could go ahead and add the map view since we have coordinates. So right here, what you see on this map actually is our LGBTQ Pride events, the various locations of the Pride events. So 9 minutes left, great. So here goes those events over the years. We could modify it and put it on a map layer so we could have different color dots for the various types of events that we saw. All right, and then lastly, I want to just visualize one. This one is our LGBT Las Vegas businesses. So here is the map layer with the various businesses we did. It's running a little slow. Data. Uh-oh. And sometimes, depending on the time of the day, the query service, So as you can see here, we have a map layer with the various types of businesses we've done. And this is a picture of the local LGBT Las Vegas. So at that note, also this query could be modified. So if you got rid of line 8 and line 16 on here and ran it again, you would actually get a global picture of LGBT businesses across the globe. And I've ran this before, and what you see is there's only representation mainly in North America and Europe. You don't see any representation in Africa, very limited in Asia. And so, and it could be for a lot of reasons. I know in some countries, being gay is a crime, maybe there's still segments of the community that can't risk being outed. There's a lot of different reasons for it, but this is just the beginning to dig in to these kinds of questions and stuff like that. And then lastly, we did a timeline. The last one on there was a timeline, which you guys can go ahead and play with that yourself. But that is pretty much it as far as the Sparkle queries. So on that note, thank you. And if you have any questions, I'm more than welcome to answer your questions.
Awesome. I think, Christine, there was a question you were going to share.
Yeah, so amazingly no Sparkle questions. I think everyone's just dazzled. But there was a question from Dorothea Sello. How did folks working on this project think through ethics and privacy decisions, especially around people's public outness or lack thereof? I'm reminded of the ill-fated On Our Backs digitization project and how upset some contributors to On Our Backs were at the zine suddenly being available well outside the community it was created for.
Yeah, so for one, with our archival collections, during when the deeds of gifts come in, rights have already been worked out already. So pretty much anything in our archive, we have the rights to publish and redo, reuse and reuse. So there's that. Also, there's a lot of uncertainty. So we didn't assume things like gender, sexual orientations. We didn't assume. And unless in, say, like an oral history, somebody actually described themselves like that, you know, we would be very cautious on what we put and what we published. So mainly the first thing we did was we did businesses. So that's public. It's been published in public places and business records and stuff like that. And then, you know, the timelines with the different events and stuff like that. With the people, got a little bit tricky. We couldn't do everybody in this community, but if we have oral histories in our archives, which that's how this house, our Sparkle will work. There's none of the Sparkle for people is on the wiki yet. I recommend checking back the next couple weeks, keep going, because we're always adding, as we dig into this stuff, we'll be adding the Sparkle with people, and it'll have various levels of degrees. So, and it's basically on what they said in their oral history. So sometimes they may not even talk about themselves in their oral history. It might say, hi, I'm this person, and then they go on and talk about an event or something that happened.
Thanks. That's really helpful to hear. There's a couple more questions / comments in here. So Joe Sarah is saying, I wonder if it's possible to create a complicated query of representation in Wikidata with an overlay of sections highlighting where it is a crime. I assume he means these kinds of activities or adjacent things. Have you thought about that at all, or do you have any quick ideas about whether that's a thing that's doable?
Sounds like he gave me homework, and I am very happy to take that on, because that actually would be kind of cool. It would actually take a little bit of organization, because I'm not sure if that data is already in the graph yet. So we may have to put organize a sprint that would say, like, so technically, yes, it couldn't be done, but it would take an organized effort to, like, say, all right, these are the places where, you know, being gay, lesbian, transgender, you know, queer would be a crime. We would have to put that in the graph first, and then we would easily be able to query that. So
Joe is saying it's a future Wikidata working hour idea. And I imagine that it's probably complicated because of the laws changing over time. And so, like, I can imagine this having layers. There's a question from Susan Hoover. For Darnell, checking a bar, I see it was replaced by another bar that is current. The current one has an official website property, but the previous incarnation does not. Was there a consideration to try to find website URLs in the Internet Archive?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that question?
Susan Hoover saying that she's looking at one of the bar proper I'll read it again. So they're saying, checking a bar, I see it was replaced by another bar that is current. The current one has an official website property, but the previous incarnation does not. Was there a consideration to try to find website URLs in the Internet Archive? So I think the question is basically, for things that didn't have URLs, did you try to dig for, like, dead websites?
You know, no, that was not the current scope, but that's actually a really good idea. You know, that I may need to pass that on with later this afternoon with my Wikimedia when we have our meeting this afternoon.
Yeah, that could be, I feel like digging through old websites could be like a really fun, like, edit-a-thon or like working hour or something, right? Everybody gets to learn how to cite the Wayback Machine. Okay, and then there's a question from I'm going to totally butcher this name, I'm so sorry. Jarmo Sarako, working on minorities in Wikidata, are there similar approaches, any similar approaches to the various indigenous peoples of the Americas and their cultural heritage?
Yeah, so in the wiki there is, it's labeled Indian reservations. I don't like to use that name, but the reason why I labeled it that way is because that's how the property value is, that's how we have to query it. So if you look back, let me see. I wrote a Sparkle query that has all the reservations in Nevada, 6.9 will give you a Sparkle query for that. We have done some stuff, and we do have some collections pertaining to the Paiute here in our collections, and that's also a potential sprint for a future sprint. Another possible sprint we've been thinking, our Oral History Research Center is just completing a 5-year grant documenting Asian American Pacific Islanders. That may probably be the next sprint as well. So, we're just really trying to, like I said, contribute to this problem. And we have a lot of unique things here that are about, especially here in the West, we got some really cool things, especially when it comes to like water and, indigenous folks and Western expansion, casino, hotel industry, entertainment, there's a lot of potential overlap. So, yeah.
Very
right.
cool. Huda, I'll let you wrap up.
Yeah, thank you. I was just gonna say we're a little bit over time, but that's fine. We have about an hour break and then we'll reconvene. Thank you so much, Darnell, for sharing your pretty awesome Sparkle queries and visualizations. And if people have questions for you, they can follow up more on Slack. And if your presentation's already been uploaded to Sketch, that's great. And if not, then just let us know and we'll.
Yeah, I'm actually about to upload them
Right now. Awesome.
shortly.
Thank you.
So, all right. Thank you guys. It was great.